Hey everybody, it's James W. Falcon. Welcome to When Men Speak. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. This is the second post in our series that my partner and I, Kottyn Campbell, are doing on the subject and the topic of communication. Hopefully by now you've viewed her post that she did this past Thursday. That is post number 1 in the communications series. And she's tagged me, so now I'm it, and I want to share with you as a man to men, and to women for that matter, what some of the pieces are that are important for both sexes to know as it relates to communication. Before I go any further, I want to go ahead and dedicate this particular broadcast to all of those persons that have been impacted by the recent storms and hurricanes. So those in the Florida and the Caribbean area, as well as those in Texas, and any that are potentially to be impacted as these storm systems continue to move. Our hearts, our prayers, and our good thoughts are going up and out to you, and hopefully our money will follow to provide you with the support that you need. So Women Speak was founded in 2010 as a result of a need I saw to create a forum for men to encourage other men about the relationships with the women in their lives. I felt it was critical for that reason. Over the past 7 years, the network has developed into kind of a portion of it anyway, has developed into kind of an underground network of men who are black, white, who are Hispanic, who are of all racial backgrounds, cultures, creeds, religions, and spiritual preferences, that are of all economic backgrounds, of all educational levels, some with education formally, some without, what we would call white collar and blue collar workers. So they are men. And I want to make sure I make this point. While as an African American man, this forum that I created could very well be a forum to black men from a black man, it is not. This forum is rather a forum to all men because the issues are just that important. So going back to the underground aspect of this network, so over the years, what's happened is I've found myself in the center of dialogue from men who have given up, who've called it quits, men who have packed their bags and their cars, and they're halfway up I-95, I'm talking to you from the state of Maryland, where they have gone to seek out a new life. They've just said, you know what, the heck with it all, I'm done. And it's mostly because of this one thing, communication. This is not a broadcast to pick on women. This is not a broadcast to make women feel guilty by any means. As a matter of fact, this broadcast, this series, this forum is just the opposite. We're here to talk about issues, to explore options and solutions to enhance the male-female relationship dynamic. But I want to mention some things, first to men and then to women. So this topic of communication has been so important to these men. There were elements that were missing to the degree that it sent them over the edge. So I'm going to share some information in hopes that you, man, who are listening, you who have your ears and your eyes directed this way, hopefully this will save you some steps. Hopefully this will encourage you, and hopefully it'll save you a great deal of pain, stress, discomfort, and it will save your family and those that you are connected to a great deal of pain and stress, discomfort, and heartache and headache as well. So when we talk about communication, I want you to think about something. Communication is best, is most effective when it is couched in intimacy. So what I'm going to share with you tonight is the fact that communication and intimacy go hand in hand. Now let me define intimacy. Intimacy does not have to mean anything sexual necessarily. And I'll talk to you about that in just a couple of seconds. It'll make sense. Intimacy, I'm going to define on this particular broadcast, is the willingness, the closeness that we choose with one or a few people, access that we give to one or a few people that we don't give to anyone else. It is a choice. We are deciding to give this person this much of us. That person has decided to give us a certain portion of them, access to them. And so in the confines of that bond and that relationship, communication functions best. My partner said in her broadcast this past Thursday that pillow talk is important. To play off of that, what she said was, and what she was discussing, providing information is, there is pillow talk. What happens between a man and a woman in the confines of their bed, in the privacy of their room, at night and at various times, where there is something that's shared. It's not shared anywhere else. It's on a level that's not given anywhere else, and it's access that each provide to each other that they don't provide to anyone else. And in the confines of that, wars have been won and lost, kingdoms have been sold and gained. All kinds of things throughout history have taken place in the confines of pillow talk. Pillow talk is essential for the man and the woman in their respective relationships. But playing on that thought and making it much larger, here's what I want to share with you. Intimacy and communication go hand in hand. Think about this. Women living under the same roof, women who are cohabitating in some kind of a way, perhaps in a dorm room, maybe it's a mother and daughters in a home, maybe it's two sisters, maybe it's two women, just professionals who are roommates in whatever the capacity may be. There can be a connectivity between women that is so close, watch this now, that it will cause and facilitate their respective monthly cycles to happen at the same time. That's powerful. Guess what? It also happens with men. Obviously, we don't have a monthly cycle in that respect, but there are behavioral patterns, there are thought processes, there are perspectives that men can share in common. There is one dude on the planet, I guess, for every man that he may call his boy. That's my ace, my go-to dude, my dude, the guy that in the tightest most trying times, that man's going to get this man's phone call, and we play off of each other. Women and men alike, nowadays we call that a BFF, right? Well, that person, you've decided to give that person access to you. That person has decided to give you access to them, and there's something that is being shared with you that's not shared with anybody else. In relationships, in the romantic kind, we all have hopefully had the experience where we're sharing things on so deep of a level that we finish each other's thoughts. And sometimes it happens in such a way where it's not just a finishing of sentences, it's somebody anticipates what the other person is going to say or do. What's the point by that? Those are just a few examples of how life happens based on, here we go, the connections we are willing to be joined by. We are willing to make, we are willing to invest in. If your communication is broken, it's probably symptomatic of the intimacy being broken. If there is little intimacy, there will be little to no communication. Men, here's my first message to you. If you are having problems with the intimacies in the communication, if you're having problems with the communication in your marriage, relationship with your girlfriend, issues with your mother or your sister, maybe your boss, if it's a woman that you're working for, wherever there are women in your lives, if you're having problems, it's probably because the intimacy is off. So I want to encourage you to examine the intimacy level. Again, we're not talking about something that's only relegated or just relegated to sexual intercourse. It's not that. It's on a much bigger, broader level. So man, before you go off on the deep end, because those critical elements are not included in the communication that you're getting regularly from your significant other, from that key woman in your life, then I need you to do this. Make sure that you are sharing those thoughts and feelings with her. Do not assume she knows. That's number one. Number two, you want to work on that regularly. And you want to make a decision. Is the relationship something you want to invest in? If not, then you need to make a decision about that connection. If you're no longer willing to invest, if you're no longer to pursue and work on the issues of intimacy in order to enhance the communication, then listen. I know this may be a hard pill to swallow, and I am not inviting and encouraging you to divorce your wife or to leave your homes and so forth, but I need you to make a good, hard look at yourself. If you're not willing to do that, then you need to move on, because you could be holding a spot for another human being who is willing and who could be much more suited for that situation because he or she is willing, more willing than you are. This has been James W. Falcon, and I want to say so much more, but let me put a period, maybe perhaps a comma right there to come back to that on the very next broadcast. And by the way, we're going to be doing these broadcasts on Tuesdays and Thursdays as opposed to what we originally promoted, which were Thursdays and Sundays. So look for me this coming Tuesday with the third part of this series, Communication. Men, in this process of listening to when men speak, I want to invite you to do this. Find yourself an accountability partner. Maybe it's your BFF. Maybe it's that one dude. Maybe it's your boy. Maybe it's that one guy that has your back. And make sure that you're sharing these things with him. And I'll tell you why that's going to be super critical next broadcast. But just to kind of leave you with a little bit of a hunger for this broadcast, that person could potentially save your life, your marriage, your mindset, and your enthusiasm. This has been James W. Falcon. Blessings to you and everyone connected to you. Until the next time I get a chance to be in front of you, have an enjoyable rest of the night and a very productive rest of the week. Take care.